Should we do it? Let's do a riff.
Okay. What do you want to riff about?
I don't know.
Royals?
We haven't riffed in a
We
long
haven't
time.
we have not riffed in a while. That's true.
Is there anything like non-sports, non-politics,
Ugh. I mean,
non-weather?
yeah, something like lighthearted that's, not
Yeah.
terrible.
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
isn't the Chiefs or Royals. Not really.
Right.
That's why we haven't done a
Not
riff in a
really.
long time
Not really. There
because,
hasn't been anything
since
riffable.
just hasn't been anything good happening in the world at all, really, at all. Welcome in to It's Always Sunny in Chiefs Kingdom. I'm Austin. Find me on Twitter at RealBirdLawyer. Here with me, as always, my co-host Taylor at Taylor_Witt on Twitter.com. What's going on, buddy?
I am juiced, man.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
How does it get better than last night?
It doesn't. I mean, it doesn't, unless both teams were winning playoff games at the same time, which is
Which is
impossible.
impossible. Yeah,
So
it's as good as it gets. I mean,
it's
that
as good as it
was
gets.
electric. It was the first time that we've really ever experienced simultaneous big games from our two favorite teams. Like, we've had the Monday night from 2014 that we all remember and talk about and love, but that was not simultaneous. That was one night and the next night. It was a lot of fun. But like this was there was something like out of body experience of two TVs right next to each other with big time Royals and big time Chiefs at the same time. It doesn't get better. It was amazing.
And both in island games. I mean, we got primetime
Yes.
Chiefs Monday Night Football. The last game of the week. Team that started off 4-0. Going to 5-0, about to cruise into that bye week. And then the Royals, playing their island game on the road at Yankee Stadium against the freaking Yankees. Are you kidding me? Like, just a lot going on at the moment in a
The
good way.
setup there was always like tenuous that we were going to come out of that night feeling great. Like it was
Sure,
it was
sure,
between we know what the Chiefs put us through, but like the Chiefs eventually probably maybe are going to lose a game. And like the Royals are almost definitely going to lose a game, and to have those two worlds collide at the same time, both games meant a lot, but obviously one of them being in the playoffs. I mean, as a Royals fan, I was as over the moon that they were able to walk out of Yankee Stadium with a win as I've been. I mean, definitely in 9 years, and really that win, I hadn't really stacked it up with like individual 2014, 2015 playoff game
sure.
results. But if I'm thinking out loud right now, the wild card game against the A's was
Untouchable.
insane and untouchable and crazy. But like going into that game, even though it was the first playoff game in 29 years for the Royals, I didn't really have like this like expectation or like a hope. I don't know. I don't know what I felt going into the wild card game, but it was crazy. And then outside of that, like World Series games 6 and 7, where the series was on the line in 14, and then in 15, World Series game 1 and 5 were both crazy. But like this one was right up there because you're on the road, you're not expected to do much, you're playing the Bronx Bombers, everything that was at stake there, and they come out on top. I mean, it was a storybook night.
And both games relatively comfortable
Yeah,
victories
as
for
comfortable
our
as those two teams can make it.
cardiac kids in blue
Yeah.
and red. We will talk about that, of course. We are brought to you by Fansided, and we've got a great show for you guys. Chiefs are heading into the bye, so we're going to hit news, and then in lieu of a preview, since we do not have a game next week for our Kansas City Chiefs, we're going to talk about what is happening, and of course, we'll close it out with a recap of the Chiefs' 26-13 victory over the New Orleans Saints on Monday Night Football. Let's hit the news. Well, Taylor, let's start with the good news, and I mean actual, real good news, not the Adam Schefter version of good news, where you're going to tweet bad news 4 minutes later that completely contradicts the good news
Jesus.
that you just tweeted out. But the good news, the actual, real good news that I have to share. with our dear listeners is that there are no new injuries to report after Monday Night Football. That's according to Andy Reid. So the Chiefs go into the game banged up. They come out of the game as healthy as they were going into it, which is great to see. Now, let's get to the bad news. Rashee Rice had surgery to repair a torn LCL in his knee. Of course, they did not know the extent of the damage before they got in there yesterday and then got that repaired today. This is apparently the best case scenario. And for those of you who are not in the loop, what I was alluding to with Adam Schefter's tweet was his ridiculous tweet yesterday, where the entirety of Chiefs Kingdom for about 4 minutes was celebrating the possibility that Rashee Rice might actually be back this season. When Adam Schefter said, huge optimism, great news, everything's going to be great. And then Ian Rappaport came out and said, oh, he's out for the year. And then Schefter came out and said, oh, yeah, by the way, he's out for the year, but it's the best case scenario for him being out for the year. He has only LCL damage. They were able to fully repair it. He should be fully recovered within 4 to 6 months. You could do the math. It's October 8th today that he had the surgery. He's not going to be back this year. His season is over.
Super Bowl's February 9th. It's just not going to happen. You sent me the Schefter tweet and I was fired up. And then you said, wait, what? And you sent me the rap sheet tweet. And then you said, oh, God damn it, Schefter says it too. WTF. And then you said, and I quote, fuck Schefter. I'm going to declare jihad on him. I'm going to make that son of a bitch suffer. I'm so pissed.
Yeah. Yeah.
You were going through it.
Yeah.
That was a really, really bad. We don't have a lot of respect for Adam Schefter on this show.
No, never have.
He doesn't know ball at all. Anytime you ask him to open his mouth about anything other than something that someone else told him to say, it's completely void of anything resembling intelligence. But at least when he breaks news, he normally doesn't editorialize his own news. It's normally
Right.
something happened, and he is like just a conduit to which we learn information. But this time, when he says, oh, it's going to be awesome, everyone's
He
going to be
said,
so,
he said, I'll read you the
yeah,
tweet. After consulting today with doctors, there's, quote, a lot of optimism that standout wide receiver Rashee Rice didn't suffer a knee injury as significant as first believed, per source. Rice will be put under anesthesia Tuesday to determine the extent of his injury, but the belief now is it could be a, quote, much shorter recovery timeline than originally thought. What? What are we
like
doing here, Adam? And then literally
we
4 minutes later, oh, by the way, that means he's out for the year. Come on.
we never were worried about the off-season recovery of Rashee Rice. Sorry,
No,
Rashee.
never. Come on.
Sorry, buddy. But like this was always about getting him back on the field. And for everyone to say that, yeah, it could have been a 12-month injury and now it's a 4-month injury, yes, that is significantly shorter. However, this it was worded like he was saying he was coming back. Like it was like oh,
100%.
we were worried about a season-long injury. Now it's a 4-week IR, and then he's going to be back in November. I mean, that's like how I read the tweet. And
And
then
that's
he
always
completely,
been that's always been part of the conversation before yesterday that
yeah.
that there may be a scenario in which he could play this year. And
The
so,
reason that they didn't like immediately say it's a torn ACL and
right,
put him on, I
right.
mean, all that was the hope that we were all holding that it was a sprain and that it was a short-term injury. That was always the hope.
Well, that is unfortunately not the reality. And of course, the way that it was reported, notwithstanding. And for those of you who might have suggestions for how I can carry out my jihad on Adam Schefter without being blocked or blocking him or violating the Twitter terms of service and getting my account banned, because even though that website is terrible, I do spend a lot of time on it and I would be pretty devastated if I got perma banned. If you have any suggestions, feel free to send those our way. Um, we got to turn now to possible trade targets, because although the Chiefs certainly put up a dominant offensive performance yesterday night without Rashee Rice, they they certainly are going to at least be doing their due diligence, vetting, possible options to add to this team. I mean, we know that the entire organization has been thinking three-peat from the second they were hoisting the Lombardi Trophy
Yeah.
in February. Patrick, literally on the podium, is talking about it with Chris Jones. Brett Veach and the front office, they have to be in on the whole plan, right? Like the whole organization is fully behind this three-peat. And let's face it, when we'll talk about this too going forward, what the team will look like without Rashee Rice, there's a real possibility. I mean, you have to give yourself a legitimate chance to carry this out, win the Super Bowl, and complete the three-peat. And to do that, you have to at least vet some trade possibilities. So Devontae Adams, not an option, off the
No.
table. He is going to be
Yeah.
traded, and we'll talk about the Raiders here in a minute when we get to what is happening. But not an option for the Kansas City Chiefs, partly because of his salary, partly because he only wants to play with Derek Carr or Aaron Rodgers because I don't know,
He's a
losers love
baby.
losers. Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, whatever. The salary would be difficult, and then obviously, just tradition. Teams don't like to trade within the division. Now, does it matter that the Raiders are currently terrible and the Chiefs are currently great? And there is no scenario in which the Chiefs with Devontae Adams are going to prevent the Raiders from winning anything significant because
No.
Devontae Adams is like 31. He's probably going to be retired in 2 years, and
Hmm.
the Raiders aren't going to be good in that time span. That doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. It's the NFL. Teams don't trade within the division. It is what it is. So DeAndre Hopkins, uh, Ian Rappaport did report that the Chiefs were heavily interested in him last year before he signed in Tennessee. Could go after him again. The Titans obviously are 1-4. They did get off the schneid. They're not winless. They were one of the last winless teams in the NFL. But um, Ian mentions that the Chiefs will be very budget conscious as they have extensions on the horizon for Trent McDuffie, Trey Smith, and George Karlaftis. And then Amari Cooper. This is the guy that I saw one of those tweets that was like, "Who's Brett Veach already called about?" This was my prediction. Amari Cooper. He's a guy that you could bring in. He's under contract through 2 more seasons. Very comfortable salary wise for the Chiefs, and obviously with the extra year in there, you could move the money around a little bit easier, massage that a little bit. The Browns are 1-4, and they're like, I mean, they're 1-4. I mean, like 1-4
Hard
with a
1 and
bullet. I
4.
mean,
Yeah.
like Deshaun Watson is the worst quarterback like in
Yeah.
ever. Like he's
Yeah.
literally the worst quarterback. He's literally I'm not going to remember the stat verbatim, but you've seen that jersey of all the quarterbacks to have played for the
Hmm.
Browns. He's
Hmm.
worse than all of those guys. Okay.
Yep.
And that is a jersey of like the shittiest quarterbacks you can possibly think of. Like
Yeah.
Tim Couch is on there, Johnny Manziel is on there. Just like utterly atrocious, like a jillion guys that I'm not even remembering because they were so bad. They played like 2 games in the NFL and then were never heard from again. Uh, he's worse than all of those guys. So there's no official word that he's being shopped or that he's being linked to the Chiefs. But boy, this trade would make a ton of sense. DeAndre Hopkins would make sense. Devontae Adams, unfortunately, is not going to happen. And we mentioned Tyreek last week. Unfortunately, the Dolphins did salvage a victory over the moribund New England Patriots. So, I'm sure they're holding out hope that Tua will come back and lead them back to relevance. And I'm sure that, the Tyreek pipe dream is not going to be a reality. But any of these guys float your boat? Any of them
I mean,
interest you?
most certainly Amari Cooper, I am all in on. I think that he would be so he leads the NFL in most percentage of highest percentage of targets that are off target throws. So Deshaun just can't even think
41%,
of
I think it was.
throwing him. Yeah, right. So Amari Cooper's out there. He's running around. He's trying to do what he can. He's still a good player, and it's just not working in Cleveland. And Cleveland obviously is going to have a giant, you know, a lot of soul searching to do in the next coming weeks
Yeah,
and
the
before the trade
reckoning.
deadline and a lot of stuff to figure out. And they don't have any beef with the Chiefs, which is one thing that I mean, like you were saying about Devontae Adams, I can't believe anybody
Well,
actually convinced themselves that Devontae Adams was a target. Oh, so they had one playoff game against him, and now everyone
yeah, but
everyone the Chiefs beat have to have beef with him.
Yeah, but I will say, like, when I interact with Browns fans online, like that
Well,
is
that's
that
different.
is beef for them because listen, Taylor, like how many times have the Browns even been to the playoffs in the
No,
last
you're
20
right. They
years?
remember. They definitely
They
remember.
they
They
definitely
we don't
I
even know
still
their
hear
names,
about
and
Dan
yeah,
Sorensen's,
yes, yes, yes,
helmet to
yes. But
helmet
that's
hit.
fans. What
Yeah,
I mean is that
that's
the
true.
front
The front
office,
office, yeah.
the Browns don't take personal offense when the
No,
Chiefs
they don't.
win
You're
football
right.
games as an organization, and so that's something where I see the fit for sure. I see the fit for Amari Cooper, even if the Chiefs were at a full complement of players, just
Sure.
based on
100%.
his profile, and he's the guy that we've always been chasing, the X receiver, the just the alpha, the guy that, I mean, he would make an immediate impact and difference in this team. So yes, if the front office for the Chiefs, if they are serious about going out there and getting a deal done to significantly help the team, not Demarcus Robinson, not I mean, make your pick of uh not bringing in Byron Pringle off the street or something, but I mean if they're really gonna make a splash, then I think Amari Cooper's the only option. I don't think anyone else more expensive or at least more higher profile than Cooper is available. I think
Right.
he's probably the best receiver that is realistically available for a trade. So go get him. Go get the job done. Go make sure that this three-peat doesn't go to waste because of some injuries and some, things that were out of the Chiefs' control. It's one thing if the Chiefs were just sucking and if they were 2-3 and had all their players and things just weren't working or whatever. Basically, if they were like every other team in the NFL, but they're not. They're 5-0 despite adversity instead of because of it. And yeah, make it happen.
I tweeted this out last week, but one of the things that I find really attractive about Amari Cooper is that he has been traded in the past. He was traded from the Raiders to the Cowboys in
Cowboys. Yep.
2018,
Yep.
and he was really good with the
He went
Cowboys.
off.
He
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
in with the Cowboys, and in 9 games he put up 725 yards and 6 touchdowns. I
Yeah.
mean, 80 yards a game for a team that he didn't break camp with. And we hear all the time, how tough it is to pick up an offense when you don't go through camp, you don't get the installs. This
Then
guy's done
again,
it
though,
before.
we're
This guy's done it
comparing
before.
Mike McCarthy offense to
That's
Andy
true.
Reid
Yeah,
offense.
that's true.
Maybe a little
That's
different
true.
there,
Yeah, I
but
mean, we're
but
talking about he went from a Raiders offense to a Cowboys
mhm,
offense. I get it. I get it. I get
mhm.
it. But
But you're right. You're
the
absolutely right.
fact of the matter is he's a veteran. He's been traded and been effective midseason
Mhm.
before. I do think we can go ahead and spend a little bit of time here before we turn to what is happening in our game recap, just talking about the internal options, because obviously when we talk about the ceiling of this team, I think they demonstrated last night the ceiling is still absolutely winning the Super
Pretty
Bowl.
good. Yeah. Yeah, it
And,
is.
you know, for me, for them to as soon as I heard the Rasheed news, my immediate reaction to it was, well, now their path to repeating is repeating 2023, and they could do that. But we remember 2023; it wasn't really that fun until the last 4 games. You know,
Yeah,
when
correct.
you're rolling through the
The last
playoffs
four
and
weren't even
winning.
that fun.
Yeah, they weren't that fun, but we won them and we won the Super
Yeah.
Bowl. So
Yeah.
the outcome was fun.
Yeah.
Uh, I think after the game last night, I'm rethinking that a little bit. I think that, and to be clear, repeating 2023, that would be a really tough path, right? Like
Hmm.
to win on the road, to win with your offense doing just enough, to win with your defense dominating. That's really hard to do year over year in the NFL. And even for the Chiefs with the championship pedigree and the greatest
Right.
quarterback and head coach of all time, it's hard to pull that off. But I think after the game last night, and we'll obviously talk about the game, I'm rethinking that a little bit because
Mhm.
you look back to 2022, wide receiver one was Juju Smith-Schuster, and I'm not
Yep.
saying that he's back, but like he was back last night. I don't know if he can keep that up the entire year. He probably can't. But like if he did, the Chiefs are
Look,
in way better position than they were last year.
absolutely. I mean, that was his best game as a Chief ever, including every game from 2022. So no, he's not going to put up 130 yards a game. But, you know, when you said it's hard to do that year over year, I completely agree. But it isn't that hard to do if you have very little turnover and it's just 1 year and 1 year. Like 23 to 24, we're not asking the Chiefs to go win like this for the next decade. But like this
Sure.
is pretty much all the same
Yeah.
guys that just did it. And there's a couple changes, but the coaching staff's the same, the quarterback's the same. You got Kelsey there, you got a lot of stuff that still is locked in. And so I do think that their path forward became a lot more I became a lot more optimistic about it after last night, just seeing both Juju and Kareem look good. And I'm not saying, again, like you said, that they're going to get 100 yards every night. Like that's not really who they are anymore. But like it showed that this team does have a capability of playing a damn good defense in New Orleans. That was not a slouch defense that came into Arrowhead. I mean, they can play and run right with them and put up points. And yeah, they need to work on some stuff, and we'll talk about that with the red zone scoring and all that. But like these Chiefs are fully capable of being a competitive NFL offense, more than competitive, a damn good NFL offense with their current cast, and that's exciting.
It is. And the Chiefs, crucially, are 5-0. Obviously, last year they had to go on the road because they weren't able to get the number one seed. They are in pole position and in great position to be able to do that
Yeah.
this year. And we'll talk about that right now in what is happening. So the Chiefs, Taylor, are one of two 5-0 teams in the NFL. There's only one other undefeated team left. It's the Minnesota Vikings, of course.
Hey,
The
Darnold.
uh the fighting Sam Darnolds, and they are also on a bye this week. So both the Chiefs and Vikings are taking a well-deserved week off to bask in their 5-0 glory. But beyond that, there's only two 4-1 teams in the NFL, which is pretty
That's
wild.
crazy.
I mean,
Yeah,
like we,
it
we only
is.
have four teams in the NFL with 4+ wins after 5 weeks of the season. It's the Houston Texans, and this is wild. The Washington Commanders
Hell
are the
yeah.
other 4-1 team in the NFL. I know you have got some Jaden Daniels shares in our listener cutthroat league that has served
Yeah.
you extremely well. There's
Hmm.
only one other one-loss team, and it's Detroit. They had a bye this week, the very early week 4 bye or week 5 bye. So they're 3-1. But yeah, I mean, you look around the league and there just aren't that many teams with good records. I guess let's start with the NFC before we dive into the AFC. Who are the Chiefs playing in the Super Bowl? The Minnesota Vikings? A Super Bowl 4 rematch?
It's it's crazy. I don't know how much staying power the Minnesota Vikings have atop the NFC. They've been really good, but they've and I mean they've beaten some good teams. They beat San Francisco, they beat Houston. That's Houston's one loss was to Minnesota. So it's certainly not like they've been pretenders. I guess I just want to see a season, a regular season where the Vikings are doing this pretty consistently. And some of that's just kind of used to the Vikings'
Yeah.
whole
I mean, their
shtick. I mean,
whole yeah.
this is what they do. This is what they do, Ernie. So, um, I do think that Detroit is kind of the easy answer from the NFC. I think they've looked really, really good. Um, San Francisco's weird. Um,
2-3.
they,
Very
yeah,
surprising.
and losing to the Cardinals this week. I mean, that was a pretty rough loss for San Francisco, but
And
they've
they
been
lost to the Rams, who
injured.
haven't been good at all this year. I mean,
Correct, and the Rams have been as injured as the Niners, if not more injured, and they lost that game. But I could see San Fran getting CMC back and kind of getting their swagger back late in the year, and even if they're a wild card team or whatever, like I don't know, they just won the NFC last year. I wouldn't be that surprised if they did it. But I mean, I guess right now, if you have to make a pick, your point of asking this question is it's crazy. There's really not a lot of like juggernaut teams. I would go with Detroit, but and I think Houston's probably the next best AFC team, not just because they're 4-1 record, but they've been fine. I guess because they got blown out by the Vikings, they're 4-1 with a -12 point
hmm,
differential, which is really really
yeah.
funny. But they barely beat the Bills this week. They walked off with a field goal there. The Bills are still they're the Bills, and they're 3-2. The Ravens are 3-2. Both those teams have kind of, they've lost some heartbreakers, but at the same time, you could see either of those two teams being right there at the end too. Still a lot of season left.
I want to circle back to some of those AFC teams, but yeah, I think it's never too early to start thinking about who the three-peat's going to be against, and Minnesota's would be kind of a fun, attractive option just because you've got the history there. Obviously, the Chiefs won their first Super Bowl against the Vikings, Super Bowl 4, and the I agree with you that they their ability to stand the test of time is
Mhm.
questionable. They certainly have a history like the Bills. I mean, they're the NFC Bills, right? I mean, like a team that
Well, and they're
looks
held by Sam
great and
Darnold.
then
Like
yeah, right.
it's
Well,
both
yeah.
of those things. It's like the
Yes.
Vikings plus Sam Darnold. I
Sure.
can't do it.
But that defense looks extremely legit. They
Sure.
obviously gave the Texans a hell of a hard time. Brian Flores has been awesome. They've got a lot of talent there. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, Green Bay, Philly's 2-2, Green Bay's 3-2. Tampa and Atlanta are both 3-2.
Sure.
Seattle leads the NFC West with a 3-2 record. The Rams are 1-4. They look terrible. The Niners you mentioned are 2-3. I have to imagine they'll find a way to make the playoffs, but there
Agreed.
just aren't any scary teams on the NFC side of the bracket. So let's turn over
Dallas.
here. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, I didn't. I'm not even going to
Didn't
mention them.
even
I'm
mention
not
them.
even going to
Yeah.
mention them.
Yeah.
Let's turn over to the AFC side of the bracket and let's talk about a game that happened this week between two AFC contenders, or are they? The Ravens beat the Bengals 41-38 in an overtime thriller where neither team wanted to win. I mean, this was just
Yeah.
a an
Yeah.
absolutely stupid performance at the end by both of these teams in overtime. The Ravens fumbled the ball when they were driving with the ball in overtime with the chance to, score a touchdown and end it. The Bengals then fumble the snap and get a bad snap on a field goal. And then one play later, Derrick Henry gets the Ravens down into game winning field goal range very easily. But the Ravens had to come back from 10 down in the fourth quarter in this game just to send it to OT. And
That
that
ridiculous
means,
Lamar touchdown to
oh
Likely,
my
where
God,
I
one of the
mean,
best I've ever seen. I mean,
it was best
literally
touchdown of the
my,
year for sure.
yeah, yeah. I
It
mean,
was
it
unbelievable.
was it was incredibly impressive. Not only the scramble, the stiff arm. I mean,
The
the
stiff
throw
arm
was
was
great. The
dirty.
throw was great.
Yeah,
Uh, all this to say, this drops the self-proclaimed team to beat in the AFC to 1-4.
that they are.
So the Ravens are looking scary. The Bengals are indeed the team to beat. Everyone is beating them. I I kind of don't think the Bengals are going to make the playoffs. I mean, I get that like the offense has been really good and really scary, but I kind of think at this point it's just a math problem for the Bengals. And like, sure, they could get hot, but I kind of think we might have seen the last of this team.
Sure. I mean, I think that's completely fair, certainly for 2024. You get four losses through five games, and it starts to become really dicey. You basically have to run the table from here on out. You don't have to, I mean, 13-4 is not the minimum to make the playoffs, but every loss that every other team in the NFL can withstand from here on out, I mean, everyone's going to lose more games. And
Right.
everyone else
Except
when they
us,
lose,
maybe.
except for the Chiefs, which look like it's going to be a devil magic season for them for sure. But like every time everyone else loses, it's not this like devastating, kill shot to their season.
Right.
Whereas literally from here on out, if the Bengals lose any games, they're walking on thin ice. And 1-4, the numbers show that
And 0 and 4 in the AFC, by the
0
way.
and 4 in the conference, so they're not going to have any tiebreakers late and stuff like that. It's just it doesn't start to add up. Now, the one saving grace for the Bengals, which I don't like to point out their saving graces, but they're 2 games back of the third team in the AFC. Like eh,
Sure.
like you said, with not too many people being 5-0 or 4-1, that's just the Chiefs and Texans. That's it. Everyone else is kind of struggling themselves right now. So a 1-4 in a year like this isn't as devastating as a 1-4 when the top is really, really loaded with teams that are on hot streaks and doing a lot of stuff. So, the Bengals get, rip off 4 or 5 wins and I could see them sneaking back up into that playoff contention. But I don't think they're going to do it. It's not just about if it's mathematically possible to do. It's about watching this team play football. And
Sure.
their defense can't stop a fucking nosebleed. They've given up 145 points so far in their 5 games, which is brutal for a Lou Anarumo team. That is the worst in the AFC and the second worst in the NFL. And they just don't look like they don't look like they have it as far as like the juice that you need to win NFL games. They collapse late in the year. I mean, late in the games, and the locker room has got to be a nightmare right now. I mean, that they're
Oh,
all
it's got to be
just
such a mess.
Jamar missed all that time during the off seasons and stuff, and now
He hasn't gotten paid.
he hasn't gotten paid. He's going nuclear on the field, which kind of probably doesn't help him. Like he's sitting there thinking to these other guys, like you fucking chumps, I'm doing my job, and you guys can't. I
Right.
mean, like
Right.
it's a volatile situation. And Joe Burrow's got those horrible frosted tips that just look.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the worst look of any quarterback in the NFL. It looks terrible. And so yeah, I think they're cooked.
They still have 5 division games left. And of
Sure.
course, the Steelers, I mean, they don't look great, but they're leading the division at 3-2. And those AFC North games, obviously, they're always tight. They're always crazy. I
Yeah.
mean, they still have to go to Baltimore, which is a game that they could absolutely lose. They have to play the Steelers twice. They have to go to Dallas. They have to go to Pittsburgh. Obviously, the Browns look terrible, but they have to play the Eagles. They have to play the Raiders, who beat the Ravens earlier this year. They have to
Yeah.
go play the surprisingly feisty Giants in New York
Yep.
next week.
Yep.
They have to go to LA to play the Chargers. I mean, this isn't like it's not an incredibly difficult schedule. It's a last place schedule, but like
There's a
as you
reason they're
said,
a last place team.
each loss from here on out, I
Yeah.
mean, cuts their playoff chances astronomically. So let's talk about two other alleged AFC contenders. You already mentioned the Bills and Texans matched up this weekend. The Bills got completely dominated in this game, and somehow the final score was 23-20. The
Yeah.
Texans kind of did the Chiefs thing where they were up 14 at half, and Josh Allen finished this game 9 of 30 for a 30% completion percentage, which, by the way, is the worst for a quarterback with 30 plus pass attempts since 1992. And somehow the Texans win this game by 3 points. And the Bills had the ball with a chance to drive down, for potentially to send the game to overtime. They didn't do it. They couldn't do it. They threw three straight times and then gave the ball back to the Texans. I guess that was a tie game at that point, right?
Yes, it
It
was.
was 20 to
So
20.
they were
Oh
backed
my
up.
God.
The Texans had punted, and the punt pinned them at the two or whatever. They were inside their own five. I think it was the three. And the Bills had two options. The Texans had three timeouts. The Bills had none, and they had 99 yards to go in 50 seconds. And they could have done a couple things. They could have run the ball three times, asked the Texans to use all three, not asked, made the Texans use all three of their timeouts in those three runs to make sure they get the ball back, and punt the ball back, and the Texans would have it at midfield with no timeouts, couple seconds left, blah, blah, blah. Or, you know, they could try and pick up some first downs. And instead, they threw three incomplete passes, which they became the first team in the last 45 years, because I think that's when our play-by-play tracking goes back, that threw three times inside their five in a tie game in the fourth quarter under a minute. So like basically they're the only team that's ever made the decision at that point in the field, at that type of game
Crazy.
situation, to throw three times. And they were all three incomplete, and they gave the ball back to the Texans.
And the Texans win that game in regulation. Which of these teams scares you more at this point? Because I'm actually like, I mean, you want to say the Texans, they just won this
Scares.
game. They're 4-1, but the Texans haven't really taken the step forward that I think a lot of teams, which is crazy,
I
by the
agree.
way, because they have the second best record in the AFC. They're the
Right.
only 4-1 team in the
Right.
conference.
But
But
they struggled with the Colts. They beat them by two. They struggled
and
with the Bears. They beat them by six. They struggled with the Jaguars. Beat them by
sure,
four. So
right.
like
And
those, and they got their
CJ
asses
Stroud
kicked by the
hasn't looked
Vikings.
CJ Stroud hasn't looked that great this year. If
Absolutely.
you
Yep.
look at the graphs and you see Patrick Mahomes hovering around, 9 or 10, he's still having a better season than CJ Stroud. I don't know. And the
I
Bills,
mean, Stroud's
on the
got a
flip side,
98 rating, seven touchdowns, three picks. He's
sure, I
got
get it. But if you look
1,300
at some of
yards,
the advanced
277 a
metrics,
game.
I mean,
Yeah, that's fair.
grading
You're
and
right.
things like that. But yeah, I mean,
He
I
certainly
I don't
hasn't
know.
been what he was last year
I don't know
and
what to
his
think
rookie of
about
the
these
year.
two teams.
I don't either. I do, you asked who scares you, and I think it's different than who do I think would be more likely to beat you in a playoff game, which is funny
Sure.
because you would
Yeah, that's
think
fair.
those two things would be pretty close to the
Right.
same. Because
Sure.
what should scare us is someone stepping in the way of a Super Bowl. But I think the Bills have a higher ceiling because Josh Allen has, in my opinion, the second highest ceiling of a quarterback in the NFL
Sure.
behind Pat.
That's fair.
And
That's fair.
and so even though the Bills don't really have a lot right now on offense, they have a good running game. James Cook's been good, and they've got Josh Allen. And so as long as you've got Josh Allen, I think the Bills represent a team that I feel like could run the Chiefs out of a building. I don't think the Texans are capable of running the Chiefs out of a building, but maybe if the Chiefs played both teams 10 times, maybe they beat the Texans seven times and the Bills five, or sorry, reverse. Maybe they beat the Bills five times, but the whatever. My point is, even though the Bills might scare me more, I think the Texans might represent the team that has the better shot in a playoff game against the Chiefs. But it's hard to say right now. They're both 5 games in, and they played each other to a draw basically. I mean, obviously a walk-off
Yeah,
field goal, but
essentially, right.
I think we'll learn a lot about the Bills here moving forward. Khalil Shakir missed this game against the Texans, and Josh Allen got a pretty rough bell ringing, slammed his head on the ground, stayed in the game, but definitely got beat up a little bit. And we'll see. We'll see how both teams respond from here on out. Right now, if I had to pick a team to play, I think I'd pick the Texans.
It's not too early to scoreboard watch. It's never too early to scoreboard watch in the NFL. The
No.
Texans are obviously they're the only team within a game of the Chiefs for the number one seed. And the Chiefs, really they have a 2.5 game lead over the Ravens, who are 3-2 because they've beaten them
Correct.
head to head, and they already have the tiebreaker. Not that it's relevant, but they have the tiebreaker over Cincinnati as well. The Texans have just the remaining games on their schedule at New England. They'll win that. At the Packers, that's going to be a tough game. They've got the
Mm.
Colts at home. At the Jets, we'll see how they look after firing
Yeah.
Bob Saleh. They have the
Yeah.
Detroit Lions at home. They go to the Cowboys. Then they have the Titans and Jags, AFC South, whatever. They'll probably win those games.
They
They get
struggled
the
with the Jags earlier.
Dolphins. They get the Dolphins in December, and that's
Mm.
coming off of their bye week. And who knows what the Dolphins will look like then? They usually are not a very good team in December, but they will presumably have Tua back. Then they play at Kansas City and host the Ravens back to back.
Man.
December 21st, December 25th. So they have a Christmas Day game against the Ravens on a short week. And of course the Ravens will be playing on a short week too. But
Right.
uh that's gonna be a tricky schedule for them. Dolphins, Chiefs, Ravens, and then Chiefs, Ravens back to back. Obviously, if the Chiefs win that game, I mean, I feel like even sitting here now, 5 games in, if the Chiefs
Hmm.
win that game, I'm gonna feel really good about the Chiefs' odds of getting the number one seed.
Yeah, I think their path is really, I mean, look at the top six teams in the AFC standings. They have a game remaining against the Texans. They beat the Ravens. They have a game against the Bills. They have a game against the Steelers. And then 6 and 7 right now are the Broncos and Chargers, which is pretty says more
Hilarious.
about the AFC than it says about those teams, certainly. But of course, they've got a chance. They've already beaten the Chargers, and they've got a chance to beat the Broncos twice. So they have these games in front of them, and if you the more tiebreakers you pick up, the more head-to-head wins you pick up against these teams, just the more likely it is that no one else is going to jump up and get you for the one seed. And I mean, like you said, if they can get the Texans, who right now are the only team without two losses, if they get that later in the year, it's just hard to see a team leapfrogging the Chiefs. Now they can nip at their heels. There can be teams that are sitting there a game back or whatever, but like I just have a hard time seeing one of these teams lapping the Chiefs and getting the number one, at least the way it looks right now.
Let's talk about that surprising second place team in the AFC West that's currently in the AFC playoffs, the 3-2 Denver Broncos, moving ahead of the 2-2 Chargers, who are on bye. The Broncos beat the Raiders 34-18 to snap the Raiders' 8-game winning streak over the Broncos, which is hilarious.
Very
The
funny
Raiders
for
had
both
their
teams.
yes, exactly. Broncos defense looks surprisingly decent, but Bo Nix continues to pretty much look like ass. He is every week they're tweeting out this graphic comparing Bo Nix's stats to John Elway's rookie season
Yeah. And they're like,
in which John Elway, by the way, was famously the worst quarterback in the entire league, and
mhm.
that was in 1984. Like, you shouldn't be able to compare stats from now to 1984 in any way that's favorable to the player that's playing in 2020. Okay.
Correct.
That is never going to be a good comparison. You're also comparing him to literally the worst guy in 1984. This
Yeah.
is not a good comparison for Bo Nix. This is a dreadful comparison for Bo Nix. Just an embarrassing effort by them. The Raiders are going to trade Devontae Adams, who's like their only good player. The Chargers, I actually forgot existed for a minute because
Sure.
they didn't
So did
play
they.
this week. And I have no object permanence when it comes to the Chargers because they're just a completely forgettable, moribund, irrelevant NFL franchise. And so, what I have to ask you about our friends in the AFC West, I'm not going to call them our rivals. Let's be honest, and they're
Yeah.
not really our friends either. It's
It
just
needs to
kind
be
of
a
one of those
rivalry
things
for
where,
rivals.
yeah, exactly. Like I'm calling them our friends because really they're our doormats, and you can call people your friend in a condescending way when you're better than they are, and we are better than them. Which of these pathetic excuses for NFL teams are you most excited to crush in the coming weeks? We've already done it
Am I
once with the
mo-
Chargers.
am I most excited to crush? Sure. I mean Broncos For sure the
Yeah,
Broncos. Has to be
of
the
course.
Broncos in every answer of like this. I mean, look, Sean Payton sucks, Bo Nix sucks, their fans suck, their everything about them sucks, their history sucks, they cheated, John Elway sucks. Like we can go on and on and on and on. And we will, and we do, and we have. And the fact that they are 3-2 is actually really funny to me because they obviously are
Delicious.
a bad football team. They're obviously bad.
Oh, they're terrible.
They started off with the losses to the Seahawks and Steelers and didn't look worth a damn there. They had a hilariously good game at Tampa Bay where things actually worked for them. They beat them by 19 and Tampa's a good team and they just every now and then you just lay an egg and that's what Tampa did. And then that 10-9 win at the Jets said much
Oh
more
boy.
about the Jets and the bad weather in that game and missed field goals and all kinds of both teams were awful in that game. Neither of them deserved to win, but the Broncos got the win. And then of course, you beat the Raiders, so who cares about beating the Raiders? So now the Broncos have Chargers, which again, like when all three of these Joker teams play each other and they beat each other, and then they're like, oh yeah, yeah, now we're back because like
Right,
we beat another one of these
right.
shitty AFC West teams. Then they go at the Saints without Derek Carr, so that's definitely a chance for the Broncos to make some noise there and win that game. Then they get a home game against the Panthers. So the next three for the Broncos, who are 3-2, are very winnable. But like the more that the Broncos win, I don't think they understand this that it just means that it's a bad AFC team that's slotting in up top in like a playoff position or whatever for
Right.
us or anyone else to crush. Like it's not good for them to win these games because they're not a good team. And from there, yes, I will very much enjoy Bo Nix and Sean Payton getting, just their hearts ripped out in any way they can. It's gonna be funny. They're not a good team.
I really hope that they are 6-2 because
Yeah.
then come week 9, they
Yeah.
go to Baltimore and then to
Yeah.
Kansas City back to
Uh-huh.
back. They're going
And
to
I mean the
be,
Falcons
I
after that,
mean,
the
it's going to
Falcons
be
are
great. They're going to
feisty.
be
It's
6-2. They're going to be
yeah.
feeling themselves,
Yeah.
and then they're going to get absolutely dog walked by the Ravens and
Yeah.
Chiefs in consecutive weeks, and then
A
probably
hundred
lose to
percent.
Kirk and the Falcons.
Uh-huh.
And, then suddenly you're 6-5 again. Then they get the Raiders and the Browns.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
they'll be 8-5. And then they're probably going to lose four straight to the Colts, Chargers, Bengals, and Chiefs to close out the year and miss the playoffs. Except they'll be 8-9, so they'll have a middling draft pick, and this franchise will continue to be stupid and irrelevant, and we love to see it.
It's the greatest time of the year. Football is playing. We've got baseball on right now, as you all know. We've got a lot of games ahead of us where we can win some cash. So let's get it done. Over 1 million fans across 33 states got in the game last year, making picks on Underdog. You can win up to 1,000 times your money by choosing higher or lower on your favorite player's stats, touchdowns, passing yards, strikeouts, you name it. Austin and I have both loved using Underdog in the past and right now. It makes watching the games a little more exciting when you've got some skin in the game. Best ball drafts, higher, lower. Those are the two things that I like because they're pretty unique to Underdog compared to the other services. The app is really easy, the interface is clean. This week, I doubled up my cash. I made what I thought were pretty obvious Sunday picks, and they turned out to be obvious. So that was cool. There's nothing like that that little dopamine hit when you nail a prediction. You think you're right, and you are, and you get paid money to do it. So making picks on Underdog, straightforward. Signing up's really easy. You head over to Underdog's really simple to use mobile app or underdogfantasy.com. You sign up with a promo code KINGDOM, KINGDOM, and Underdog will give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em entry, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you deposit. That's Underdog Fantasy, promo code KINGDOM to claim your new special customer of a free pick and your deposit offer. Must be 18 or older, 19 or older in Alabama and Nebraska, 19 or older in Colorado for some of the games, 21 or older in Massachusetts and Arizona. Present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Offer void in Colorado. Concerns with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT STEP to 53342. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369.
Hmm. Love that. I dogged this past weekend. We did sort this out. We can legally dog in Colorado. It's just the promo is
The
not
offer.
valid.
If you're in Colorado and you try Kingdom, it's gonna say, nah, we
It's
can't
gonna
do it
say
there.
not. It's gonna say the kingdom is banned here. Do not use that promo code here. We do not recognize your authority, and you're just gonna be like, all right, whatever. I'm just gonna go down. I'm gonna get my underdog bucks. I'm gonna wear my Chiefs jersey. I'm gonna throw some stuff in there. I was very close. All of my Chiefs picks hit. Jordan Mason for the 49ers did not score a touchdown for me, so he ruined my little high-low parlay there. But it is what it is. I'm gonna dog again next week, and it's gonna be great. Let's turn to our game recap. Chiefs 26, Saints 13 on Monday Night Football while the Royals were playing in the Bronx. This was just an absolute ton of fun. And it was so fun that you came up with a new system to describe it.
It's a 1 week system. We're only going to use it, well, maybe 2 weeks if, I
Yeah,
guess
yeah, that's
Chiefs are on by next week, so we'll see how things go. But this is the Royals system. Yes, that's
woo.
right. Repurposing the Chiefs system for this game and this recap because it was too much fun, and we had to give our boys in blue a shout out as we're doing the Chiefs recap. So before I get into it, the Royals system is R, render dramatics. O, oh yeah. Y, yeah, but. A, ass blast. L, late heroics. And S, of course, you all know S. You love S. It is separated entirely as always. Let's get into it. And let's start by rendering the dramatics. Yes, you know it.
Please.
The Royals, the Chiefs, they're on at the same time. It's the playoffs. It's Monday Night Football. I, as far as rendering the dramatics goes, it's been a while since we've felt this. Obviously, the Chiefs' playoff run, you feel it in your bones. You feel it before the game. You feel the excitement, the emotion, all that stuff. But having our two favorite teams on at the same time with a lot on the line, and as you said in the beginning part of the show, the Island games, everyone's watching. It's just there was nothing like it. It was crazy. This was as dramatic of a setup as we've ever had. I mean, what an epic night in Kansas City.
We had a 3 hour block where, like, if you wanted to watch American professional sports, you're watching Kansas City, bud. Get ready to learn Kansas City, buddy, because we're the only show on earth that matters in prime time on a Monday night. And yeah, I mean, rendering dramatics, boy, it just doesn't. I mean, the Chiefs to be going to 5-0, the Royals playing in the playoffs, after obviously advancing to the ALDS, after wiping out the Orioles in 2 games in dramatic fashion. And then, I mean, falling behind, losing the first game in a heartbreaker, a 1 run loss to the Yankees in game 1, coming back to play them again in game 2 with a chance to, steal essentially a lead in the series, coming back to the K. It doesn't get much more dramatic than that. And a little shout out. I mean, listen, Joe Buck, not my favorite guy in the world, but to have Joe Buck on my TV calling the Chiefs game while I'm watching Royals playoff baseball, pretty fun, pretty nice little kick. I don't know how many people noticed it, but Joe Buck dropped a very small little he can fly in there when he was just describing a player like sometime in the third quarter. And I was like, listen, Joe Buck just said he can fly while I'm watching Royals playoff baseball. I am so into this. It was
If
awesome.
anyone doesn't have a visceral memory of Kane going first to home on a single and
Mm.
Joe Buck saying he can fly as he crossed home plate, I mean that I'll forget my own name before I forget that moment. That was a all-timer. So absolutely there was the drama. It was rendered successfully. They were both up on our TV screen side by side, and now we get to O. Oh yeah. We're going to start off with the Saints starting the game and kind of marching down the field a little bit. They picked up a 3rd and 1 on a really nifty Alvin Kamara run where he was stuffed for like a 5 yard loss and then
Oh
bounced it
yeah.
over to the other side and picked up the first down. And then from the Kansas City 39 on 1st and 10, there was immediate pressure right up the middle on Derek Carr. And he decided to he was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I'm Derek Carr and I'm an Arrowhead. I forgot this was my role here. And
Yeah, I'm under pressure.
he
Just,
just threw an arm punt right up in the right side, and Brian Cook came up with, I mean, one of the most athletic, ridiculous Chiefs interceptions that I can remember in a long time. Comes up down with the ball, and Shaheed had barely touched him on his way down, and then Cook got up, and a bunch of his teammates hadn't heard the whistle and decided to direct him down the left side of the field, and I'm at the bar watching both games, and I hadn't heard any of the commentary or didn't know because
right.
Joe Buck is saying they blew the play dead, they blew the play dead. But I'm just watching Brian Cook streak down the left sideline after the pick, and it's an early pick 6, and I'm fired up. But he's called back, but it was a very oh yeah moment. combined with this was around the time that the Royals were scoring in the fourth inning, and they were
Salvidong.
keeping Salvadong to start it off with. They cut to the camera, the up camera
Oh
from
man,
behind
it
the
was
plate
good.
as Salvi ripped a
It
Carlos
was really
Rodon
good.
slider, hanging slider, just out into left field as far as it can go. And yes, that was the start to the inning. And then of course the Royals just keep the line moving, and they get Tommy Pham RBI single, and Garrett Hampson, who's been an unbelievable hot streak right now, he's hasn't had an out in the playoffs yet. So anyway, the Royals score four. We're at the oh yeah moment. Beginning of this game for the Chiefs, they were going to combine the interception with the first Chiefs drive of the game, which was an oh
Mm.
yeah 10 play 78-yard touchdown drive that did feature an early 3rd and 3 where Pat went to Kelsey just right over the middle. Really, nobody was guarding him, and then other than that, it was a lot of longer plays. It was a 21-yarder to Kelsey right over the middle that pretty much nobody decided to guard him, which was very funny. And then Kareem Hunt picks up an 8-yard run. Noah Gray, they roll Pat out to the right, and he throws back across his body to the middle of the field, and Noah Gray was wide open, gets it down to the 5-yard line, and then Kareem bangs it in for 5 yards. And oh yeah, Chiefs are up 7-0. The Royals are up. I'm as happy as I've ever been in my whole life. How about you?
Oh yeah, you know it. It was amazing. It was so much fun to watch the Royals doing their thing while also seeing the Chiefs get off to such a hot start. And I mean, Derek Carr in Arrowhead under pressure, under the lights, throwing the ball up for grabs. I mean, same as it ever was. But still very enjoyable to watch. This opening drive, I really thought was one of the Chiefs' better drives of the season. It certainly was one of their
Certainly.
best opening drives of the season. I mean, they really were in complete control on this drive. I mean, they had the third down, but they were just ripping off chunks, and they looked like they had answers for everything the defense was doing, which was great to see because obviously, you know, you lose a guy like Rashee Rice in the second quarter, I think it was, or late the first quarter against the
First
Chargers.
quarter is the second drive of the game. It's
you
brutal.
don't you haven't game plan for that. Like you have
Mm-hmm.
a game plan that heavily features Rasheed Rice.
Heavily, yeah.
And now
Led the
you've got
led
it
the team in receptions before that
right.
game, like
Right. I
extremely
mean, he
heavily.
was
Yeah,
one of the five top receivers in the NFL
second
by yardage.
behind Malik Neighbors in
Nico.
receptions,
Or
or
yeah.
Nico in yards, Malik in catches. But either way, Rasheed was a star in the NFL
Yeah.
before that
Right.
injury, and now you don't have him. Yeah,
But you have a week to prepare. Andy Reid had an extra day with the game being on Monday night, and they looked like it. They looked really sharp on this drive. That's definitely worthy of an oh yeah.
yeah, for sure. So now the Royal system does have a built-in yeah but in the Y, and this is just going to include the low moment of both games kind of coincide at the same time. Both teams traded three and outs. Saints punted three and out. Chiefs punted three and out. Saints punted three and out. And then the Saints did get a long Derek Carr deep middle to Rashid Shaheed for 43 yards. Not the greatest play of the Chiefs secondary and Brian Cook and all that. But I mean, Shaheed is also his 43-yard catch was his fourth touchdown
It's
and
crazy.
shortest touchdown of the year. So he's a deep guy. And in fact, he's the premier deep threat in the NFL right now with Tyreek having their
I
quarterback
mean,
struggles
he
and stuff.
has,
He's
I think, one less deep touchdown than Tyreek Hill since he came into the league,
Yeah,
which is crazy.
yes. Yes, it is. The difference
And that's
between the
all he
two
does.
players is that Rashid is a one-trick pony. Like he's catching deep balls and he's not really doing a lot of the short and middle stuff. Whereas, of course, Tyreek is a monster. But yes, so that was a yeah, but and then they go into half. The Chiefs had kicked a couple field goals after that, and they're up 16-7. But they start off the second half and they drive the ball down to the New Orleans 33-yard line, and it's 4th and 10. Butker tries to line up to make it a 19-7 game, but he hits the right upright, which
Hmm.
is really more just notable because like Harrison Butker just doesn't miss field goals. Like the dude
Yeah,
is just as
never.
as automatic as it comes, and even though this one was from 51, that might as well have been from 21 with how good he's been kicking this year. And so, just a rare miss by the best kicker in the league that's not named Brandon Aubrey, who actually is the best kicker in the league. But then We're gonna continue the yeah, but with a after the Saints punt, the Chiefs drive down the field again, and again they're at the goal line, second and
Mm.
two. They're thinking, okay,
We're
we're
finally
now
going to
about
score
to
another
go up.
touchdown. The game's going to be
Yes,
over.
yes, exactly. We're gonna go ahead and make this thing academic at this point, and instead, Juju, who's been at this point having a unbelievable game for him, he had a 39 yarder and a 50 yarder in this one, but the quick little slant pass on second and goal, it doesn't quite get him where it needs to, and he pops it up into the air. And who else but Colin Saunders comes away with the ball, and not only comes away with it, rumbles out to the 35-yard line. I mean, just had to have been as joyful as that guy has ever had as a moment on the football field. His first career interception against his old team with his brother in the house and just everything that, I mean, Colin, everyone talks about how good of a teammate he is and how Pat said of every player in the league, that's his most preferred interception. Like he said, if it's going to be one guy, I'm glad it was Colin. And so now that's the yeah, but the Royals give up a ninth inning homer to Jazz Chisholm to lead off the bottom of the ninth, and their 4-1 lead becomes 4-2. And the why portion of the Royals system is why we are not going to be using this system ever again because it has a built-in disappointment. But yeah, but
Yeah, but the Chiefs couldn't score in the red zone. Yeah, but Harrison Butker missed a field goal. I mean, you got it. This was a tough little 10-minute, 15-minute stretch here.
yeah.
We had to suffer out of the 3.5 hours that we were spending watching our two favorite teams largely dominate the competition. Damn it, there was like a 15-minute stretch in there where both of these teams were making us feel a little bit bad about the product that we were watching on the field, and I will not stand for it.
No.
So, yeah, but it could have been so much better. And I mean, let's be clear, after that Colin Saunders interception, the Chiefs managed to make it a 2-point game, or excuse me, a 3-point game because the Saints marched down, score a touchdown following the interception, but miss the extra point. So that was as close as it got. 3 points for the Saints, 2 runs for the Yankees, but there's another couple of letters.
There are. Shout out to Sedalia, Missouri native Blake Groupie for missing that point after the touchdown. He walked into the game wearing a throwback powder blue George Brett jersey. So guy definitely had one eye on the Royals game as well, and we appreciate that. And maybe
Probably
he was
had
trying
one
to
eye on the Royals game while he was
while he
making
was
that
kicking.
kick.
That's what I was gonna say. Maybe he was looking up at the scoreboard trying to find what the score was and shanked it. So yes. So at that point, the Chiefs get the ball back. They're only up three. The fourth quarter is just underway. The Saints scored that with not much time left, or just starting the fourth quarter. And of course, this next step is ass blast, and that's because the Lucas Urseg led bottom of the ninth inning goes as planned for the Royals. Right after that, he cleans them up. They get a little 2-out single, and then retires them to clinch the game for the Royals. And meanwhile, as that was happening, the touchdown drive for the Chiefs, 5 plays, 68 yards, and that's because on the second play, on 2nd and 6 of this drive, Pat throws it to Juju, and boy, I guess the Saints just kind of decided that they were not going to really pay super close attention to Juju this game because he just starts running down the left side, and I'm looking around going, where are the Saints? Where are they?
Right.
There's just
Where
no
are
one
they?
in sight. And eventually, Jonathan Abram does catch up to him 50 yards down the field at the 14-yard line. So now we really didn't even have much time to worry about this 3-point lead. Like, oh, can the Chiefs even are they gonna be able to at least get a field goal out of this or whatever? Like they just immediately are in the red zone, and then a Kareem Hunt run, and then a defensive hold gets the ball back at 1st and goal at the 3, and Travis Kelsey lines up in the Wildcat, and with his girlfriend watching directly, snaps to him. He hands it off to Worthy, and Worthy punches it in from the right side. Touchdown Chiefs. Butker's extra point is good. They're back up 10 with 11 minutes to go. The Royals have won. We're high-fiving. Everyone's feeling great. Um, pretty good ass blast. I know we built in the yeah but that's a nice little 1-2 combo there to get the Chiefs back up double digits, which Chiefs up double digits in the fourth quarter is not really something we're very used to seeing, and the Royals win a playoff game.
Rarefied air for the Chiefs late in this game. I take it, since this is called Ass Blast, we're the ones doing the blasting. We're the ones
Yes,
oiling up the
we're
asses and
blasting
doing
the ass.
a
Yeah.
little blasting of our own. See, I wasn't
Yes.
clear when I heard the acronym which direction this was going to go, but of course it makes sense. The yeah but is really the
Only.
only part of either of these games that
Yes.
went against our boys in blue and
Small
red.
lull.
So, you
Yep.
know, I love the Aspas. So we have two more letters here in the Royal system. Lay it on me.
So now that the Royals have finished the job, now we need L late heroics out of the Chiefs, and that's going to come from Spags and the boys because, of course, lately that's who it always comes from because they are inevitable, and so the Saints, I almost call them the Raiders, just used to it. The Saints get the ball back, and Derek Carr tries to valiantly lead the Saints down the field and cut this 10-point lead down, but they get a 4th and 8, and as Carr is dropping back, Spags hilariously from the Chiefs' 41-yard line. This would have been a 58-yarder for Groupie, so I understand trying to go for it there, even though 4th and 8's a lot. Spags sent the house. He said, you know what? I'm gonna
Sure
basically
did.
run the engage 8 play from Madden, and just anybody that's free that wants to go hit Derek Carr, I'm gonna let you go do it. And Shamari Connor really, really got after him, drove Carr into the ground, actually caused an oblique injury that's going to knock Carr out for several games. And he threw the ball up in the air to Mike Tipton, who did not come down
Oh,
with it.
it was actually a hell of a throw by
It
Carr. I
was, it
mean,
was. He ripped
it
it.
was
I
a
mean,
it was a catchable
it,
ball. I
it
mean,
was. It was a really high arc, and
yeah,
so Tipton had to kind of like the ball was basically coming in from the lights, and he had to look up and catch it. And as we all know, arrowhead lights at night, it's going to
that's right.
cause some drop skis,
Yep,
and he couldn't
can't
come
do
up
it.
with it. So the Chiefs take over, and there's 9 minutes left in the game. They're up 10, feeling pretty good about things. The late heroics then are because the field goal drive is a Chiefs drive that just it's 11 plays. It's only 38 yards, but it takes up 6 minutes and 29 seconds.
Yeah,
Every single time the Chiefs hiked the ball, it was 40 seconds later on the play clock. Kareem ran it, and then Juju got a short pass for a first down, and then a Kareem run for 5, and then they blew up a Kareem run. But very crucially, on 3rd down, Patrick Mahomes with the game on the line, not really game on the line, but he can ice the game with a first down, and he scrambles. He's no one's open. He's looking, and I'm just screaming, throw it away or get rid of it. And he scrambles, and they call him. He does like a Michael Jordan dive on
yeah.
the left sideline for the first down. That originally they called him short by a yard, and on the replay it clearly showed that even before he crossed the out of bounds, he was well over the first down marker. So Pat gets the ball as a first down. They run out another. That was at 6:10 in the game, and they don't end up kicking a field goal until 3:03. So that was a 3-minute play by Pat there just to get that ball extended, and then that was the end of the late game heroics by the Chiefs. They get a stop on defense, a 4th down stop, and Pat dives for a first down, and that's the L for you.
It's funny how many highlight reel plays the Chiefs generated in this game in a 13-point victory, but this was not only was the offense clicking in a way that it hasn't in quite a while,
Yeah.
on script, red zone issues notwithstanding. There were some highlights in this game. You mentioned obviously the Pat run.
Oh
That's
my
like
God.
probably the first play this year that it's been like, that could go on the career highlight reel,
Yeah,
right?
you're
Like
right. That's his
that could make
first
it
career highlight of 2024.
it is
Absolutely.
like that could make it into the career highlight reel. That was an iconic
It
play.
was.
I mean, you said it, like the Michael Jordan aspect of it. Now, of course, we did not mention the
I know.
third or the second and 34 that the Chiefs converted in the second quarter, and that was largely thanks to the heroics of course, Travis Kelsey and Samaje Perine with the unscripted lateral. But this was fun. I mean, this was a fun game, whether it was the late heroics, whether it was the oh yeah early on, or the separate entirely that I know is coming next.
Hmm.
This was a fun Chiefs performance, not only because they won and won pretty comfortably, and we didn't have to sweat really the first you know, 25, 35 minutes of this game or the last 15 minutes of this game, uh, there were some fun plays in this game for the first time in
Yeah,
a while. It was a lot of
they
fun.
they had the swagger back. Like they looked like a team that was the two-time defending champs that were undefeated. That like this is what the Chiefs should look like more often than they do. This is what we've been expecting. And yeah, they've been beat up, but they were as beat up in this game with losing. I mean, Rasheed last week as they've been all year, and they just had an aura about them that they haven't had this year. And, whether that's playing loose, Travis lateraling that ball is a play that you do when you're feeling yourselves, when you're
Yeah.
loose.
Yeah.
Like that is not a tight play to run. And they talked about it afterwards. Everybody talks about how Trav does it in practice at least they say like once a day, like pretty much all the time.
Sure.
And they laugh about it and P. Ryan is pretty new to the team and said he's not gotten one in a practice from Trav, but he's seen it enough that he was ready. He knew, like, all right, I gotta run this thing out. I'm gonna stay kind of pitch behind him, like, and Trav. What was so funny about his body language on that play is that the moment he caught the ball, you knew he was gonna lateral. Like
Yeah. Right.
he's looking around. He's not looking around to run to make up yardage. Like it's second and 20 or 34 at that point. He's looking around and just kind of surveying the field in the middle. And like I said, he's going to pitch it like 5 steps before he actually took it and pitched it because that was just you could tell. And then you're right, converting that, and then they get down to a 4th and 1 after a second and 34, and they pick that one up. That was just it was I almost was going to call it vintage Chiefs, but it's not really because vintage Chiefs is kind of what we've been going through this year. This was like peak Chiefs. This game was like when things are all working. Like, when they used to blow people out every now and then. The Bears game on Taylor Swift's first game or the Raiders anytime the Raiders come to town, which I guess we can thank Derek Carr for that. But like there are some times where everything just works for the Chiefs and this was one of those games. And so of course we can't have a system without an S, and we get separated entirely, and that's
Mm.
the final drive of the Saints. They get Jake Hayner come into the game to step in for the injured Derek Carr, and I mean, again, it's Spags, and the game's not really on the line because the Chiefs are up 13 at this point, but a touchdown and a onside kick and another touchdown, and you lose the game. So like you got to at least separate entirely, got to finish the game out, and they only managed 28 yards in the final minute 16 before they turn it over on downs with an incomplete pass on 4th down. Chiefs take over, they kneel the game out, and they separate entirely. And both of our favorite teams win giant games, primetime games, big time, just energy games for the city. Um, the Royals are going to come home and host the Yankees for 2 on Wednesday and Thursday, and God help the Yankees walking into Kauffman Stadium because that place is electric during playoff games. And I'm a diehard of Chiefs, Royals, and Jayhawks. I've been to plenty of games in Allen Fieldhouse. I've been to AFC Championship and plenty of playoff games in Arrowhead. There is nothing like the playoff atmosphere at Kauffman Stadium. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because baseball. I heard this theory earlier. I forget which sports show it was, but how baseball is kind of a relaxed sport when it's not the playoffs. Like you
Yeah.
show up to the park, you eat a dog, you're sitting there talking to your friends, you hear the crack of the bat, you kind of look up, and like most people who go to like yeah, the diehards are paying attention to every pitch, but like baseball's like a nice sport to be involved with until it gets to the playoffs and you have 40,000 people that are screaming at every single pitch and it just for some reason it's like a feedback loop. Like everybody just gets more and more amped and then everyone around you's amped so you're more amped. There's just it's different. It's different than any other sport event I've ever been to, and I can't wait to go this week and watch the Royals separate entirely at the end of those games. But this one, the Chiefs get it done. 13 points felt like 130. Like it felt like this was the biggest blowout in the history of the NFL. I couldn't believe how easy this game was.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. I mean, this was the obviously the first double digit win for the Chiefs since the
Ever?
playoff game against Miami. Yeah, feels like it. In January, and the first double digit win of the year for them, first multiple score win of the year for them. And I mean, the Chiefs were absolute garbage in the red zone. They could have won this game. I mean, they could have put up 40
50.
points in this game very
Yeah.
easily, 50 points in
Yeah.
this game very easily if they're just a little bit better in the red zone. And yeah, I mean, it felt like a very comfortable win. I didn't have to post the meme.
Nope.
Ironically, Taylor Swift was caught saying that she was going to kill herself during the game.
During the
So
Colin Saunders interception.
yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, like we're one of us,
Yeah.
first of all,
She
and
gets it. She
and
knows
she
ball.
she gets it. Good for her. I'm sure that there was a personal aspect to her, with Colin getting the interception because that she's got to deal with his brother now. She's got to deal with Cam. Cam's going to be talking smack. Probably not since the Chiefs won this game comfortably,
Yeah.
but let's hit the awards. And for those of you who are not familiar, we have three types of awards. We have our 5-star men who, through their play, are screaming out, "I'm a 5-star man." We have our trash men
I'm the trash man. I come out, I throw trash all over the ring, and then I start eating garbage.
who are eating garbage all over the field. And we have our wild cards
Wild card, bitches! Yeah!
who are capable of anything. I will give you the first select this week for the 5-star man. Hit me.
I'm going with our old friend from 2022, Juju Smith-Schuster. How
Yeah.
can I not? He had 7 catches for 130 yards. He looked spry. He looked quick. He said in his post-game presser, first of all, he walked up and said, "Man, it's been a long time since I've done one of these," and just seemed reinvigorated. Um, we'll ignore the drop touchdown that turned into the Colin Saunders pick. Nobody's perfect, but for him to come into this game, I guess it'd be one thing if he caught some really kind of some easy balls. Like maybe they targeted him a lot and it was more like 10 catches for like 68 yards or something, and it was just a lot of over the middle stuff. But he ripped some balls. I mean, it
Yeah.
was a 30 whatever yarder and a 50 yarder, and he looked good. And that was as important as his total number there. He said after the game, after I think it was maybe in today's presser that they asked him how his knee was feeling. How much of what happened last year was directly because of your knee, and how good do you feel right now? He didn't respond to how much of it was because of your knee, but he did say, I feel as healthy as I've ever felt right now. I
Wow.
feel like I'm 21 out there running around just like I did back, when I was younger. And so, like, it's one thing he could have said a lot of stuff there. He could have said, "Well, I can tell I'm a little bit older, but I still got it." Like Kareem. Kareem didn't say like I feel like I'm a 20-year-old again. Like he
Right.
said like I'm
Right.
excited to show people that I still have it. That type of stuff. Juju like very clearly was like I'm here. Like I'm ready to go. I'm here. And he he looked it. He looked the part. It was pretty good. So I'm giving him my 5-star man, and I hope it's not the last time.
I mean, if we have 2022 Juju, like, I mean, we're in
Pretty good
absolutely,
shape.
absolutely fantastic shape. That would be just utterly tremendous for the Chiefs to have him in the mix.
Did you see
I'm
his
gonna,
quote about like they asked him like you were here in 2022, you guys won the Super Bowl, the vibes were immaculate. How does it feel compared to that? And he just went off so glowingly about the
hmm,
organization, and he was
yeah.
like it is special here. He was like from everyone, not just the team, but like the janitors. He was like, I was eating Chick-fil-A and I saw one of the janitors and they like came up to me and we had a conversation. He was like, it's just the vibes are just incredible to be a part of this organization. And I just like when dudes talk about how much fun it is to be a Kansas City Chief, like not
Oh
just
yeah.
their performance on the field, but like the status and the being a part of a team that is this close and connected and wins all the time and stuff. Just always kind of makes me, proud. And Juju's definitely feeling that right now,
Yeah, thanks to the New England Patriots for cutting him
very
loose. They
much.
were having a very hard time on social media last night, Patriots fans, what few of them there are left, because he had more yards last night than any of their pass catchers has had in any game this season. So,
Mhm.
pretty good little situation. Great pick by you. I'm going to go with an honorable mention, which I never do, but we have not talked about him, and he's having a great year. He had a sack last night. That's Turk Wharton. I
Yeah.
mean, the Chiefs have been looking for, another guy to pair with Chris Jones on the interior. And Turk Wharton has been that guy this year. He has been
It's been
fantastic.
awesome.
He was extremely disruptive again last night, got the sack on Carr. But my 5-star man has to be Kareem Hunt. 27 carries for 102 yards with a touchdown and tacked on a 15-yard reception. I mean, more of the same. We saw obviously him make his 2024 Chiefs debut last week and carrying the ball hard, running hard, playing hard. But could he do it again? A guy
Mm-hmm.
that was on the couch, and they asked him about that in his pressers this week. Like, what was it like to come from, literally off the couch? And he was like, yeah, I mean, literally. But,
Mm-hmm.
he obviously was keeping in shape. He shouted out his trainer for, keeping him in shape. And of course, he has said that, he felt like his last couple of years with the Browns, he had some health related issues that weren't necessarily, I mean, incredibly publicized, but really limited his production there. This was his first 100-yard rushing game since 2020. I think it was 2020.
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, it's been a while.
Yeah.
And obviously, Juju, it's been a while as well. These two guys as our 5-star men, it's going pretty well for the 2024 Chiefs.
Did you see Kareem 27 carries, Kamara 26 yards?
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
that's sure tells you
it's
how the night went.
It's fantastic too. We mentioned that the Chiefs are number one in rushing success rate in the NFL, and they continue to be number one in rushing success rate after the night they put up here. I mean, when was the last time the Chiefs had a back with 27 carries? That's got to be.
Kareem Hunt.
I haven't looked, but it's probably
Sure.
been a while. And this is just, you know, this is just the kind of offense the Chiefs are able to run in 2024, and it's a nice luxury to have to just be able to hand the ball off. I mean, a couple of those late drives, that 6-minute, 38-yard drive. I mean, it was just handoff, handoff, handoff. If we need to get, throw to get a first down to keep the chains moving, so be it. But yeah, a real grinded out game from Kareem and a
I
really
have the
strong
answer,
game.
by the way.
Uh,
2017 Kareem Hunt
are you
was
serious?
the
The
last
last
time
time
a
we had
Chief had 27 attempts.
That's crazy. That's
Yes.
crazy. I honestly thought that maybe Pacheco might have done it somewhere
Nope.
in there. That Clyde game against the
The last
the
three times,
Bills.
Kareem did it twice in 2017, the year
That's
he won
crazy.
the rushing title,
That's
obviously.
crazy.
Before Kareem, oh my God, this is crazy. 2014, Niall Davis had
Wow.
32 rush attempts in a
Sure.
34-15 win at
Sure.
Miami. And then Jamal,
So
Larry.
you know what that means, Taylor, is that this is the first time in the Patrick Mahomes era that a running back has gotten
Correct.
27 carries in a game,
That is
which
correct.
is which
In
is
any game.
crazy. I mean, like if you're handing the ball off, that means that you are imposing that much. It means you are imposing your will on the other team. It's great to see. That's a really
Yeah.
positive sign.
Yeah.
For the trash man, I'll take the first one on this one. I'm gonna pick Derek Carr.
I love
Not
it. I love
not a
it.
lot of Chiefs options for trash man this week. The Chiefs played pretty well. I guess we could, I'll see what your pick is. I have one thought about who a trash man on the Chiefs side could be, but Derek Carr and Arrowhead, man, just not good. Just not good.
No, never
The
good.
uh the interception, you mentioned it really like an arm punt. I have heard some people say on the internet that he might have been trying to throw the ball away, but like if you're trying to throw the ball away, just throw
Throw it
it
away.
15 yards down the field, bro.
Throw it
You
away.
don't need to throw it 40 yards down the field and try and get it
Mhm.
out of bounds. That's
Mhm.
not efficient. Uh, I think he was trying to make something happen because when Derek Carr has pressure in his face under the lights in Arrowhead, he's going to throw that ball up for grabs. He did, came away with an interception. And obviously, I mean, it's not his fault, but he gets hurt in this game. It was a pretty lousy performance by Derek Carr, if I'm being honest. He's my trash man.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just always such a get right game to play Derek Carr, and I was wondering about that with the Saints. He had the streak to start the year of scoring on whatever it was, 15 straight scoring drives for the Saints to start the season, which was
Right,
crazy.
right.
But they were playing the Panthers, and things were a little easy, and then but of course you get under the bright lights, you get the crowd screaming in your face, and he just melts. And the only time he's ever won an Arrowhead was because of the low COVID crowd of 16,000. And I mean, he's never faced that crowd and come away with a win, and
Correct.
he never will. So good pick for the trash man. I'm gonna go with Matt Nagy. And
Yeah.
the offense as a vibe was good, but like really the play calling is pretty ass right now. They are 30th in the league in red zone scoring percentage. Like they just cannot find their way into the end zone. And they had a bad trick play that Carson Steele fumbled. They were lucky not to lose that ball. That led to the 34 yards because they had a hold right after that. With everyone being injured, like the more you lose the players, the more you need to lean on the coaches to make things work. And yeah, they've got Andy, but Andy delegates a lot of this to Matt Nagy, I assume. Again, we've said this every day on this podcast, basically, but I don't really know what goes on and who does what and who's responsible for what because the Chiefs won't have it that way. They won't let anybody know who's
Yeah, they won't
actually.
tell us.
Yeah, I mean they don't want to throw anybody under the bus. Everything starts and stops with Andy Reid, but I just I just feel like this team under Eric Bieniemy's offensive coordinatorship was more dynamic, more creative, more aggressive, much more aggressive than they are these days. And I just have to. I don't know who else to blame, so I'm going to blame Matt Nagy. So until this offense kind of gets right in some of their design and execution of like I just they don't feel quite the way that they should. So Nagy, you'll be my trash man today.
That's fair. Give me your wild card, and then I'll go last.
I'll go with the guy that made that insane acrobatic catch that would have been a house call if he wasn't barely touched on the way down. That is Brian Cook. He did give up a bomb touchdown to Rashid Shaheed, so that's why he's more of a wild card than than a 5-star. But that dude's capable of anything, man. He's really good. He was the one streaking down the sideline in Germany after the pitch
Yeah.
on the fumble there from Tyreek, and I mean he's a playmaker. He's my wild card. He was pretty good. He was pretty good.
He was, and he was definitely capable of anything because he did give up the bomb, obviously, to Shaheed. It's crazy too because Brian Cook, like when you see him, I mean, you mentioned the play in Germany, obviously against the Dolphins, but on this one too, when he got cooking, I was running down the field on the house call. It's
Cooking.
crazy because his 40 time was a 4.59.
Uh
Like,
huh. Yeah, it's Demarcus Robinson's 40 times. Sometimes guys are faster in pads.
sure, yeah, no, I get it. Like but he is faster in pads, is my point. Like
Hmm.
that guy can move.
Yeah, he can.
And when
He can scoot.
when he gets out in space, he can scoot. My wild card is another guy who, when he gets out in space, can scoot. I gotta go with former Chief Colin Saunders, of course.
Yeah.
We already shouted it out, but this play deserves special mention. It's hilarious that it literally happened as they were running like the Colin Saunders package on the
Yes.
broadcast.
Can't
They're
time it any better
literally
than that.
talking about Cam, his brother, dancing for Taylor Swift. They've got the pictures of, him and Travis and Taylor up there from the night Travis made it onto the Ears Tour stage.
Hmm.
And then there you go. The ball gets tipped up in the air. It was hilarious to me that, I don't know, I guess maybe I give too much credit to national broadcasters, but of course Troy was thinking like, "Oh, this guy used to be a running back. Look at the way he's carrying that ball." And I was
Right.
thinking like, every Chiefs fan knows that he used to be a running back. Like
Yeah.
we've all
Does Troy
seen,
know he can backflip?
yeah, we've all seen the highlights. He used to backflip. We all know that he used to run the ball a lot in high school. Like, okay. And then like 10 minutes later, the truck told Troy, like, yeah, by the way, this guy was running back. And he's like, I knew it. I'm like, yeah,
No, you didn't.
so did all of us, Troy. Like,
Yeah.
because we pay attention to things. And
It's our team, not yours, Troy.
you weren't getting paid $40 million a year to tell us things that we already know, then somebody else would be. But yeah, it was a it was really fun. I mean, like you said, you already said, Pat said, if it had to be somebody, I'm
Yeah.
glad it was Colin.
Yep.
And
Me
it
too, really.
it and really, I mean, like, sure, it's frustrating that it led to a score that made it a 3-point game, but if it had to happen, I can't think of a better player and a better situation for it to happen in, which is, of course, a Chiefs blowout victory and a beloved former Chief getting that pick. That's going to do it for our awards. That's going to do it for the Chiefs over the Saints. They are 5-0 going into the bye week. We will be back next week to talk about, I mean, the preview. We're going to be playing the
For
Niners
the
in the bye,
Niners.
which is going to be
Hmm.
fun. And
We're going to talk about the ALCS next week.
Oh, that will be absolutely fantastic. Go Royals, go Chiefs. We'll see you guys next time.